Hello and welcome to Retro Reviews, my channel where I review my favorite retro video games of all time, as well as some modern releases I have recently finished. And welcome to Smash Saturday, where we talk about all things Smash related until we get a new Smash game, whether that be Smash 6 or Smash Ultimate Deluxe. Today I want to talk about some speculation here as to when we're going to be getting a new Smash game, because I have some thoughts, but I also stumbled upon a Reddit thread from user Indigo_SSB talking about the time between console launch and the Smash game launch for that console, talk about development time for each game, and the time between releases for each game in the franchise. So I wanted to talk about these and give my 2 cents on the Reddit thread. I thought it was really interesting. I'm really happy that they went through the time to do all of this. I think it's really cool to have these numbers. So big shout out to Indigo_SSB. Thank you for this awesome thread. I think it was published just a couple days ago. You can check it out. I'll try and link it in the description down below. If I forget, again, Indigo_SSB is the user. You should be able to find it if you just like Google search like I did, like when is Smash 6 releasing or something like that. If you do Smash 6 speculation at all, you should be able to find this thread, no problem. So I wanted to go over some of these things. I'll be showing a graphic on the screen, so you don't have to look at me looking up and reading my paper here. But I want to talk about first the time between console launch and the Smash title launch for each console as well. For Smash 64, it took 31 months after the console was released. For Melee, it took 2 months. This was the only launch window game. For the Brawl on the Wii, it took them 14 months. For the 3DS, it was 43, by far the longest one. For the Wii U, it was 24 months, and Ultimate for the Switch took 21 months after launch of the console. I think this is really interesting here because I've long speculated that the new Smash title will be in the launch window for the Switch 2, but looking at this, the only one that was in the launch window was Melee for the GameCube. It's kind of interesting to see, since Smash obviously became kind of more of a mainstay property with Melee, that they launched it so close and none of the other games did. Brawl for the Wii was the closest one, with just over a year after the console launch we finally got that game, but some of them took even upwards of 2 years with the Wii U, and I guess the 3DS was like a lot longer, but that was more of an outlier. They talk about this in the little notes, the footnotes here as well, but it was roughly around a year to 2 years of wait typically before you were able to get a Smash game for a console. So that's something to note here. Next, we'll go over the dev time, how long it took them to develop each game. For the 64, it took them 14 months. For the GameCube, for Melee, it took 17. For Brawl, it took 26. For the 3DS and Wii U, it took 31. I'm guessing that having 2 games made it a little bit longer to do. For Ultimate, it took them 34 months, which is a little bit surprising. I know that, like I just barely said, there was 2 games they had to develop for at the same time, but they were running basically the same thing, just on different consoles. For Ultimate, it didn't take them that much longer to develop that game, and that game is substantially bigger in almost every single way. So I thought that was really interesting to note. And the final category is time between entries in the franchise. So for the Nintendo 64 to GameCube, it was 34 months of waiting. From the GameCube to the Wii, 74 months, which was a huge bump up. From the Wii to the 3DS and Wii U, it was 80 months. From the 3DS and Wii U to the Switch, it was 50 months. So there's a big discrepancy here. The earliest one obviously was the Nintendo 64 to the GameCube. Smash for the 64 came out fairly close to the end of the Smash 64 life cycle, and the GameCube one came out right at the beginning. So there was a pretty good gap. It wasn't a very good gap there. Obviously from Melee to Brawl, it was a huge gap. 74 months is our second most, only coming down right below Wii to the 3DS and Wii U. And then it was a shorter gap here, probably because of the Wii U's lack of success overall. Ultimate came out 50 months in between. So it's a big discrepancy here. I think the thing talks about their own speculation here. They talked about how Sakurai in his YouTube videos talked about developing a non-Smash related game and finishing development. And I think I'm not going to try and paraphrase or anything. I think they said if they're speculating that the game took X long to develop. October 2024, I think, was the time that they would be guessing another game would be in development. So they speculated it would be between November and December of 2027 before we get a new Smash game, which is pretty substantial. That's in 2.5 years, and we've already had a really big gap here. Now, to put this in context, 80 months for the Wii U to the 3DS and the Wii U, between the Brawl and 3DS and Wii U, 80 months is about 6.5, just a little over 6.5 years. That's a very long wait. It makes sense. The Wii was a huge seller and Brawl sold exceptionally well on the console, so it made sense for them to take a little bit more time. I would expect Ultimate to have a similar gap because Ultimate is such a huge game. It sold extremely well on the Switch, being the 3rd or 4th best-selling game on the console. I believe it was the 3rd. So it makes sense there would be a big gap. The thing is, we just came up on 5 years since launch. This December will be 6, so 6.5 if we're looking forward, if we're just looking at that. And I know that we like to make patterns. There's no specific pattern, as we can see. There's no like roadmap that Nintendo has laid out for us. But if we look at this at this biggest gap between games, that would put us somewhere in like middle of 2026 is what we'd be looking at, which I think maybe could happen. I do think that we're not going to get Smash Ultimate Deluxe. Now that we know for sure that the Nintendo Switch 2 is backwards compatible, I don't think they're expanding on Ultimate anymore. I think they could surprise us and say, hey, we're just going to do some more DLC for it, and it's going to work on the Switch 2 and have like, it's going to run a little bit better or something like that. I don't know that they'll do a port of that, just because there's no reason not to just buy Smash Ultimate on the Switch as it is. Maybe they'll prove me wrong again. Maybe Deluxe will be a different game entirely. Like maybe they will make the balance completely different, and you'll see like huge differences in the tier list. The early meta will be very different. They'll do a lot of updates and everything, and then do a ton of more DLC, and Smash Ultimate will be its own thing, kind of like how Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is its own thing despite being built off of Mario Kart 8 on the Wii U. It has better balance and everything. They've released tons of DLC that's not available in the Wii U one, so I think that there is a potential here, but again, because it's backwards compatible, I think that will be a little bit harder sell to get you to go out and pony up probably $70 for a new Smash game. That's just the Smash game you already own on the Switch. That works on your Switch too. So I think that we are going to be getting a brand new Smash game. I know Sakurai has said before that he's not developing a new one. That would be hard to top Ultimate. I feel like that could just be a smoke and mirrors thing, that he's actually going to be helming the project or being like a consultant for the project. I think that's very likely that he's somehow connected to the Smash game. I think it would be hard, he's even stated himself, to have a Smash game without him. I think his vision and his direction really help the projects move forward. So I would expect him to at least be in an overseeing role, excuse me. And I do think that we are getting Smash 6 instead of Smash Ultimate Deluxe at this point. And I would not be surprised if we got it all the way in 2026, like this person, Indigo_SSB, is stating here. If development time pans out and everything, they're estimating a certain increase in development time to like 37, 38 months instead of the 34 for the Switch. I think that's completely reasonable, especially if they're doing something like a sequel to Ultimate. But I do think that that is plausible, but I also think it is very plausible that we get one within the launch window for the Switch too. Smash is a huge property, and we've seen time and time again it really helps sell consoles. It was one of the best games on the Wii U, and probably one of the only reasons to own a Wii U outside of Mario Kart 8 or some of the remasters that they did. There were clearly some gems, like I loved Pikmin 3, and there were plenty of other games that were great, like Bayonetta 2, but for the most part people weren't buying Wii U's unless you were playing Smash 4 or Mario Kart 8. And so I feel like if they want to sell consoles early on, they're going to have a few big hitters. I think obviously we're going to have Mario Kart be coming out, and maybe they don't want to release a Mario Kart game and a Smash game in the same year. That totally makes sense, I guess. They could put it off for another year. But if they really want to sell a lot of units early on and get a foothold in the market and get people really excited about their new console, having a Mario Kart game, a new 3D Mario, and a new Smash game all within the launch window would shore up a lot for the console moving forward. Again, I think having two big party games, despite Smash being also a fighting game, the party aspect is what makes it so much fun as well, and so accessible for casual players. Maybe having two games like that in the same year doesn't make a lot of sense, and we will see it the next year, or maybe even the year after that. I think 2027 is too far out. I think that's way too big of a gap between the two games. Maybe because Ultimate's so big and it'll be backwards compatible on the Switch 2, they will wait a little bit longer, but I expect them to do it probably within a year of the Switch 2's launch, if I'm being honest here, because it's been such a long time. People are getting a little bit bored of Ultimate. It's just natural at this point. Same thing with Mario Kart 8. Like, as great as the game is, I'm sure people are looking forward to a new Mario Kart game after like 11 years since Mario Kart 8 came out on the Wii U. It's a long time to be playing more or less the same game for that long. So I do think we'll be getting one very soon. Whether that be in the launch window or a year later, I'm not quite sure. But I do think it will be Smash 6. I think it makes the most sense to be going in a new direction, doing something completely different, instead of revamping a game, again, that we've been playing for a very long time at this point. So let me know in the comment section down below what you think of this Reddit thread that I found. Let me know what you think about the release schedule for Smash 6. Are we going to get Smash 6? Do you think we'll get an Ultimate Deluxe and that'll be essentially Smash 6 for us? Will that be the only Smash title we get on the Switch 2? Or will that be a placeholder until we get Smash 6 a couple years later? Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.